Dr. Mark Changizi here through Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about left and right and woke left and woke right. And there's often a lot of folks confused about the woke right, and it's something that a lot of us have been talking about. And they say they can't be the right because they're authoritarian. Now there's a confusion in terms of understanding the Nolan diagram. The Nolan diagram is this two-dimensional political positions diagram that you may have seen before. And on one axis, it's nice if you show it diagonally. On one axis you have economic freedom, and on the other axis you have personal freedom. And so when you arrange it in this way, those who want more personal freedom but less economic freedom end up over on the left, and those that want more economic freedom and less personal freedom tend to end up on the right. And so for the typical left-right differences of your regular, the regular folk that are not extreme, it tends to correspond, that is capital left, capital R right, tends to be left and right in this diagram. And you can see that kind of in here in the middle. But when you become more extreme left, what happens is that you don't end up all the way over at the left-hand corner of this diagram. No, what happens is that as you want more and more control, less and less economic freedom, invariably these sorts of political positions end up agitating for less and less personal freedom. So instead of it ending up way over there, it ends up falling down into the authoritarian position. Communism and in principle could end up way over there, but communism in practice always ends up down at the bottom. It ends up violating both economic and personal freedoms. And the same is true on the right. On the right, often as you get more extreme, it doesn't just continue moving all the way right to the end where you have sort of maximal economic freedom but really low personal freedom. No, it ends up that the more that you want to add, the more that you want to violate personal freedoms, the more that it ends up impinging upon economic freedoms as well. You end up favoring certain kinds of national businesses or industries, or you want tariffs supporting your own companies. You have trade restrictions and subsidies. Typically, as you move farther to the right, you end up not just violating personal freedoms, which is sort of characteristic of that side, but you end up violating economic freedoms as well. So you end up with low on both of these axes. So it's true that people say, no, the fascists who ended up socialists can't be called as a political position on the right because they were in fact socialists, which is a thing of the left. No, there's different reasons, different motivations, different philosophies, different dimensions that can lead to socialism. Fascism was socialist. Communists are socialists. But this two-dimensional diagram with them at the bottom, there's other dimensions coming out of the page that it doesn't account for. So they can be overlapping in the relevant respects for this two-dimensional space, but they can still be different. It just happens to not be characterized in this particular diagram. But in some sense, the trace of the extremes from which one got there preserves, in some sense, some of these other dimensions which are not being shown. Fascism often is a thing of the right, and a radical extension where it horseshoes back around in this two-dimensional projection to the same spot that people on the left, as they get more and more extreme, in fact horseshoes down to be more and more authoritarian in both of these two dimensions. So what we see, sort of woke left, is somewhere down, heading towards there, and the woke right is indeed heading down in the same kind of direction, but they're still quite distinguished at this point. And that was your Science Moment. If you haven't seen a copy of one of my earlier books, Vision Revolution, it is a lot of fun. Get a copy today. It's about why we see in color. Color is an empath sense, a discovery of mine from 2006. Why you have forward-facing eyes. It's not because predator. No, it's because you can see more in force. It's kind of X-ray vision that allows you to see through stuff in force. And a lot of other discoveries. That was your Science Moment.